Good afternoon. I'm Larry Kamer, and this is my channel, The Fly Tying Philosopher. I like to spend some time each session in talking about ideas, and today I'm going to talk about storytelling. While I discuss that, I'm going to tie a fly that'll appear about up in here, um, uh, which will be a continuation of the project that I've done involving um, 9 flies, 3 of each type, and in 3 different colors. So I do a futsu, a sakasa, and a June in 3 colors. So there's a kind of a oyster pinkish color, green, and then a dark red coloration of that. And I'm doing the system, so I'll try to do as many flies as possible within the time constraints that I have for the video. Couple pieces of news. My wife and I are planning to go to Montana this summer to do some fly fishing in Tenkara, and of course I have books ordered from Amazon, Fly Fisher's Guide to Montana, and Yellowstone. We're going to spend some time in Yellowstone and then near Bozeman for the rest. We're going to be there about a week. Going with my stepson, who's an excellent fly fisherman, his wife and 2 daughters, and they're all novices to fly fishing and have enjoyed it very much, as in this past summer when the girls were first introduced to it. This past summer, I was on the south branch of the Osabo River near Grayling. I had finished an exhausting afternoon of not catching anything. Tried a couple different Tenkara rods on that trip. I had purchased a new one, a dragon tail, and it was fun with those anyway, but no fish. I went up to the car. I was kind of on the high banks area of the South Branch, and local fishermen would know that area well. Went back to the car and was having a Coke, and somebody drove by in a car slowly, and then went down the road, turned around, came back slowly, and stopped. And the person was a FEMA worker who was in the mid-Michigan area because of a couple local dams breaking, and he was in charge of relief efforts to the residents who lived all along the Tobacco River and Lake Sanford that were devastated by the flooding. He was a fisherman, fly fisherman predominantly, a nymph fisherman specifically, and had fished all over the United States when his job took him to new locations. And this was his first trip to the Osabo system in Michigan. I showed him my Tenkara rod, and he said that he had recently purchased one himself but hadn't gotten to use it yet. But his main form of fishing was Euro nymph fishing, and I had heard about it, but didn't know much about it. So we spent a pleasant time talking about the different techniques, and he was very informative. I learned a lot, and I can see that that form of fishing and Tenkara would be very compatible. When I was tying some flies the other day, I was just kind of remembering that encounter that I had, and was thinking about storytelling. He told me some stories. I told him some stories, uh, and that's what stimulated my thinking about storytelling. I had spent a lot of time in over the years in trying to understand storytelling, and that's where I'm wanted to talk about, or where I'm going today, is to talk about stories, not specifically about fishing, but the idea of storytelling. One of my early observations were that storytelling is integral to our thought processes. As a matter of fact, we tell stories constantly. As a matter of fact, that may be all that we do. Um, I was thinking, okay, uh, if I were to ask you what did you have for breakfast yesterday, you would kind of think back about what you did. You would recall your experiences. You would probably then put those together in a little story, mostly for yourself. You might just say to me, "Oh, I had coffee, toast, and a banana." Um, or you might elaborate on that a little bit more and say, "Oh, I got a new coffee maker, and was trying these little cups you put in it. That's really handy, and so I did that, and then I threw some peanut butter on toast, and it was a pretty healthy meal." So that's a kind of a form of storytelling, and we do that all the time. But if you look into it deeper, we kind of tell stories about ourselves to ourselves all the time, and that these processes of storytelling really are integral to our personality and our identity. There's a great book by Dan McAdams, and it's called The Stories We Live By, Personal Myths and the Making of the Self. And in this, he shows how storytelling is really fundamental to forming our identity. We do it throughout the stages of our life. We have to kind of retell the story sometimes, modify it to make sense and give ourselves meaning. Stories probably form our character. We have an experience, we tell it to ourselves in a story fashion. We might add insights, like, for instance, if we had an ethically challenging encounter in our experience, and we made a decision, and now that becomes kind of the part of the story. Either we made a mistake or we did the right thing, and therefore contributes to then character. We then remember that story for character formation. The other thing we do is we kind of tell a lifelong story, and often this kind of comes out to be like a hero's journey. We've met challenges, we've been transformed by the challenges, and then we go on in our exploration of life. We play roles, and sometimes the roles we change them. Sometimes we don't like a role that we've had, and we make efforts to change that. McAdams talks about exploring your stories for perhaps self-improvement and growth. The idea of a hero, if we look at that even a little deeper, then we run into like Joseph Campbell, and he wrote a famous book called The Hero's Journey. And he kind of thinks that the hero story is applicable to all of us throughout our various stages of life. And I will put a picture of his diagram. He has diagrammed this process out and has stages. So we, for instance, get a call to do something. Then we cross into the unknown. Sometimes we have helpers and mentors along the way. We have revelations, sometimes significant revelations about death and life and the abyss. We come out of those often transformed and return to a next stage of our life, and this can be cyclic. If you want to tell a story to somebody, there's even some patterns to follow than in presenting a story. So you can present stories as videos on YouTube. You can write books or short stories. You can be a storyteller, and there's numerous ways to transmit stories to others. Michael Hage, and I'll present a little drawing of his here also, has what's called a 6-step plot structure. And this is, he thinks, can be used for any form of storytelling. And his stages then are come in 3 acts, like a play. There's beginning, middle, and end. There's beginning is a setup, and then the presentation of a new situation. Next, you make some progress. You run into complications. That's in Act 2. And Act 3 has the final push and the aftermath of what you've done. So these are interesting people to study and to gain a deeper understanding of the storytelling capabilities. Sometimes I get inspired to maybe write a short story. I'm not very successful at it, but we all have experiences with great storytelling. We sometimes tell a pretty good story ourselves, and I think I've often enjoyed in the evening after a day of fishing, sitting around with fishing buddies and hearing the stories. They're kind of made up on the spot about experiences on the stream and specifically Tenkara or other fly fishing techniques. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you the next time.